last 10 years, I've practically checked off every goal I set for myself at the age of 15 that I wanted to accomplish as part of my 10-year plan. When we're talking about getting straight A's and A stars through school, or getting an unconditional offer from the London School of Economics, or working at the world's biggest and best investment bank, or hitting certain financial milestones and making six figures and buying property, being in a healthy relationship, moving to a new country, winning awards, building my personal brand, all of those things, it has moved me closer to my dream life, as they would say. And as I have moved closer to my dream life, I never would have expected that it would have sent me into a quarter life crisis. Let's talk about it in this video. I feel like it's been a while since I've been on YouTube, and I think it's definitely been a while since I have been on YouTube consistently. I'm back and I'm ready. And in today's video, I want to just talk about something that I have kind of experienced throughout the year. And at the time when I was experiencing it, I didn't actually know it was a quarter life crisis. It's only recently that I was able to just finally like put a word to what I was going through, and I was like, I think I'm going through a quarter life crisis. And then I actually went and searched up like what a quarter life crisis was and watched other videos of people who were also going through a quarter life crisis, and I was like, oh my god, this is literally me. And so I really wanted to talk about that in this video. So for those who don't know what a quarter life crisis is, it definitely doesn't happen to everyone, but it usually happens to people who are in their mid to late 20s / their early 30s, and it's just a time of extreme uncertainty. So a lot of people will start to feel very uncertain and anxious about like their life decisions, their life directions, about their relationships, about their career, about what they want to do in life, who they want to be. A lot of people start to feel maybe even regret certain decisions that they have made in the past. Some people might even have an identity crisis, or they might feel really, really stuck. It's just a mixture of emotions which are centered around like just feeling maybe confused, lost, anxious. The trigger for it is different for everyone. In general, it's that like transition from childhood to adulthood, right? So graduating from university, starting your first full-time job. Some people, it's the additional layer of responsibility. So when I was watching the videos, I noticed that there were two categories of people. I'll say a good proportion of people were those who were like, oh my god, like I'm 25 or whatever, and this is not how I expected my life to be at this stage. Just off my head, like certain things that people were saying, they're like, oh my god, I'm still living at home. Oh my god, like I'm not in a relationship yet. I'm not in my dream career. And so a lot of it for some people was triggered by the things that they haven't yet achieved and that they thought they would have achieved at that stage. And then there were also another group of people, probably a smaller group of people, who were like, I've actually achieved a lot of the things that I have wanted to achieve, and I just don't know where to go next, and I don't really feel as motivated to move through the next stages. And I feel like I identified more with that second bracket of people, where it was like, I'm actually going through this crisis because I've done a lot of the things that I've wanted to do, and so now I'm not really sure where to go next. So it's not like something that has been bothering me for 365 days. Once a month for like a couple of days, I'll just be like, I'm just really confused. I was thinking through things a lot more. Even certain decisions that I had made, I was kind of rethinking them and thinking, was that actually a good decision? When I was setting goals for the next 10 years, when I was doing my 10-year plan when I was 15 years old, and I've actually showed you guys before, I'll try and find a clip of it, and I know I don't have it with me right now, but I had this big piece of paper and I kind of mapped out what I wanted my life to look like. I did that actually probably when I was around maybe like 17, 18, but the person I am now is from decisions that I started making when I was 15 doing my GCSEs. And at that point, the next 10 years of my life to when I was 25, it was so much easier to envision because there was already a framework there. I already had to sit my GCSEs. I already had to sit my A levels. I already knew I was going to go to university. At least it was the expectation of me and of society that I would go to university, and I knew I would go on to get my first job. That was the next 10 years, and it already had its own structure. All I was doing was saying, okay, I have to do my GCSEs. What grades do I want to get? I have to do my A levels. What grades do I want to get? I have to go to university. What university do I want to go to? I have to go on and get my first job. What job do I want to get, and where do I want to work? So setting goals at that point was so much easier because the framework was already there. I didn't have to think about, I'm 15, what should I be doing next year? I knew what I was going to be doing. So setting goals was so much easier then. And coming now to being in my mid-20s, now looking out and trying to set goals for the next 10 years, there is no framework for what I should and shouldn't do. I can do anything. And I think that was a part of what was causing this quarter life crisis. I'm like, I don't know exactly, like I know where I want to go. I have a vision for my life and who I want to be, but I actually don't know what the ladder is to climb and move through the framework and get me closer. And particularly when you're not following the conventional path, right? When you don't want to have like a traditional career, I think I feel like that has also that also triggered it, because if I was just going to follow the traditional path, work in investment bank and work my way up, I already know that 2 years as an analyst, 2 to 3 years as an associate, then you're a VP for, depending on your bank, depending on like positions, okay, 5 years or whatever, till you get to executive director, and then whatever. There's already a path that's there. But when you're following what they call like the pathless path, where you're trying to create your own career and create your own future, it's so much harder to not even just set the goals, but figure out what the framework is to get there, because nothing is guaranteed. When I was setting a goal that I wanted to work, and we can say this now because I'm way past it. When I said that like I wanted to work at JP Morgan, I could go on LinkedIn and find thousands of people who had worked at JP Morgan, and I can figure out what the steps is to work at JP Morgan. When I wanted to go to LSE, there were thousands of people who had got into LSE already. There are thousands of personal statements out there. The path was so well trodden, there's so much blueprint left behind, that it's a lot easier for me to figure out the steps that I needed to get to my next set of goals. But when I think about who I want to be in the future, there are some people who I can look to on like, okay, this person is doing something similar to what I want to do, but no one is in the position that is exactly where I want to go, because I don't even know exactly where I want to go. No one is me. And the pathless path, you are kind of like setting it out exactly for yourself, like building a career that's centered around you. There is no one else like you. So it's really, really hard to do that. So I think that was one thing. And then I think the other side of it was when I was 15, looking at people in their mid-20s, I was like, oh, that's like an adult person, that's an old person. So I think coming into my mid-20s, I started to feel like, oh my God, am I old? Which is so crazy to think about now, because you're literally only a quarter of the way through your life. Like I'm literally only a quarter of the way through my life by God's grace. But for the majority of my life so far, I've seen this age as a really like old age. So now I have to like change my thinking. And I think also for women, I think we're more likely to think like this because society kind of tells us like your 20s are your prime. After that, then, well, you're just old now. And I think that, and that's me being extremely honest, and I feel like that kind of mindset, and even just the way I used to set goals, by 30, I want this, and that. But then it's like, okay, I've never thought about life after 30, and I'm not anywhere near 30, but I'm getting closer. And so I think that was also another element of like, oh my God, like, can you slow down? By the time you see me, my birthday would have been a month ago. I came off socials on my birthday, and I was just like, I'm just gonna take a break to prepare for 2024 and get my mind right. And it's one of the best things I've done this year. I'm gonna get into that in the next portion of this video or in another video. I feel great. Coming into my birthday, I was like, okay, I need to take a break because all of these thoughts that I'm having, I need to get it together. And another thing is also having access to the internet. This is mulled punch, yeah? When I was living in the UK, I'd always go to like Tesco and get mulled wine, and it's so nice, yeah? I could not find it in Dubai. It's really, really hard. I think it is non-alcoholic. I think just because it's called mulled wine, I just couldn't get it here. And I don't know where the liquor shops are. Like, there are people who know these things, and usually the liquor shops are also like disguised. Like, they're not trying to advertise it. I don't think you need a liquor license anymore. I know you did before. Anyways, it's beyond the point because it's not even alcohol, but I just couldn't find it here. And so, but I did find this. I found this on Spinneys, which is like Waitrose. They called it mulled punch, and it's just not as nice. Don't know if I'm like, it tastes like squash. Like, it's so concentrated. It's just, I also think now that it's so much worse for those of us who are growing up on the internet and growing up with technology and social media, because we are exposed to so much more. We're exposed to so many more options. Our parents, right? I assume that my target audience are people who are very similar to me. So when I say us, I'm talking about people who can relate to me. I know not everyone will be able to, but a lot of us, our parents moved to the Western world, right? At this age in their 20s, I mean, my mom was born in the UK, but all of them did the same type of jobs, right? So a lot of my friends' parents, a lot of them were in like some sort of health care or social care, like jobs like nursing. Other people's parents worked in retail, or their dads were maybe like security or like cab drivers. A lot of our parents did the same thing. So I can imagine that when they were in our shoes, they probably wouldn't have like as much of a crisis per se, because all the people around them at least were doing a similar sort of thing, and they didn't have access to social media to see what people elsewhere were doing. But we have grown up with social media, so at every stage we're so much more exposed to what other people are doing, not just like within our communities or in our age bracket, but literally across the world. And like we're becoming more and more connected, which has its positives, but then also we are opening ourselves up to so many more options. And I think that can also trigger a quarter life crisis, because you're just like, there are so many options of things to do, and it's not necessarily a negative thing, right? I'm not saying this quarter life crisis, I don't necessarily think it's a negative thing per se, I'll get into that, but there are so many more options of what you could be doing or what other people are doing. There's just so many things that you can compare yourself to. Those are the things that I think kind of triggered me having a quarter life crisis. So that's not me complaining in any way, shape or form. And I am extremely grateful for the life that I live now. I'm extremely proud of myself for the decisions that I have made since I was that 15-year-old girl. And I feel like I've done really, really well. But that's just me reflecting on how I ended up in this situation. And since then, I've just been working on changing my mindset towards the next stage of my life. I think I felt like, because I had achieved like almost all of my goals, right? When I think back to that map that I made, the only thing that I don't have on that map is having kids, which I'm not ready to have kids yet. So that's not something that I didn't achieve. I'm just not at the stage yet. I'm like having a car, and I don't want to drive. Like in London, I wasn't in a situation where it made sense to have a car. And even in Dubai as well, where I'm living, it just doesn't really make sense to have a car. And I don't want to drive. Like I can drive, I did my driving license. So I guess that goal is ticked off. Those are the only two things that are on that board that I didn't accomplish. But doing all of that made me feel like, oh, this is the peak. But it's like, this is not the peak, this is the beginning. That was the real chapter 1, because my life before that, I had no control over it. When I was the 10 years before that, 5 to 15, you're not really making decisions for yourself. Like your parents, your teachers or whatever are making the decisions for you. I wasn't really in control. Now that I am, that first 10 years was really chapter 1. And so I need to prepare myself for the next 10 years. And it is going to be hard to set those goals, but like that's just the challenge of it. And I think I've just kind of changed my mindset to kind of understand that what I was going through was just a transition in my mind. Like, okay, you've done that 10 years of like a framework being there for you to set your goals, and now you have to create your own framework. That is a new challenge and it is harder, but that is the growth journey that I am on. I'm gonna do a couple more goals videos. Like when it comes to goals, I know how to tick them off. I do know how to tick them off, and we are creating V2 of the Digital Life Planner, V2.1. We had one version come out just to the people who already purchased the first one, but that was kind of like a little tester to just check out some new features. When I say we, it is really a we. There is a software developer that actually is creating this. That's one final version that's coming out that is a lot more similar to the first version, but then integrated with the second one as well. So if it's out, I'll put the link down below, but that is literally the mastermind for like creating goals and sticking by them. And it's not easy. Even filling out that template, it requires you to think a lot, plan a lot, strategize a lot, come up with the habits, because you have to be to accomplish all of these things. You have to be first before the goals come to you. And so it takes time to like sit down and go through the planner and make it work for you. And I'm going to be doing that as well and working on that. And like as we have been like modifying the planner, it's also been centered around what I'm going through in terms of my quarter life crisis and trying to figure out how do I move on from this, and then also integrating some of that into the planner. So I can't wait for that to be ready. I'm testing out one version this weekend, and then hopefully if everything is ready, by the time this video comes out, it should be ready as well. So I will leave that link in the description box. I have spoken time and time again about the benefits of digital planning. I literally have my planners, and I don't like clutter, okay? One thing about me is I don't like clutter, so I don't like having decks and decks and decks and decks and decks of past diaries or planners or whatever, but I want to keep them. Like this paper that I want to show you guys about the vision board that I set when I was 15, if I had that in a digital format, I would just have to, go into the archives, bring that and show you guys, but now I have to try and find this paper. So that's going to be coming out, so I can't wait for you guys to see that. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. We are back, weekly uploads and everything, so if you could just do me a favor and just like this video, share it with someone who maybe is going through the same thing, or just anyone, any of your friends, if you just want to have a little chit chat, like, and Merry Christmas, you guys. Merry Christmas. I don't know if you're watching this on Christmas Day or a couple days before Christmas. This is my favorite time of the year. So Merry Christmas, and I will see you guys in my next video, and that will be in a couple of days. So stay tuned. Bye guys.